I've already talked about how the new universal apostolic preferences resemble in their purpose the first major paragraph of the formula of the Institute. Both documents evoke the main things that Jesuits should be trying to do, purposes constantly to be kept in mind. Both, too, encourage us to be going ever deeper, to keep God before our eyes, and the underlying point of the Institute, that of being a sort of pathway to him. The translations don't always get this right, but in fact the formula does not say that the Institute is a pathway to God. It says the ratio behind it. Its basic idea is that of being a pathway to God. And it's, in a very characteristically Ignatian way, leaving open the possibility that new generations might need to do the same thing in different ways. Now, the formula of the Institute is obviously pivotal historically, and it's uniquely authoritative. But between the 16th century and our own day, a profound change of religious consciousness has nevertheless intervened, and things need to be different. As I've already evoked, secularization is not necessarily a bad thing, and the idea that religion should serve as an agency binding a society together in an authoritarian way is now seen as something less than fully human. Now, it's interesting that in the formula, every Jesuit should propose to himself, proponat sibi, again, it's another phrase that the translations don't always get right, proponat sibi, that he is a part of a society that strives to defend and propagate the faith. It's about an action of will. Yes, we ally ourselves with this Christ who has descended to a sinful world from heaven, and we try to defend and propagate the gospel and the church that he has come to found. It's fundamentally about us doing the work in union with God. But in late modernity and post-modernity, Christianity seems to have moved beyond such thinking. God's grace is bigger than the church. The focus is now less on our striving as such, and more on how it emerges from our responsiveness both to God and to others. The metaphor of military service, following Christ Jesus, conquering the world for Christ, saving souls, that's given way to a different sort of rhetoric of grace, which speaks of God's reconciliation, in which we too are caught up, even if that also involves our own agency. And it does this in a way that allows us to admit that we too fail. We are imperfect servants. In the end, it's all God's work, and it embraces the whole cosmos. Of course, God has entrusted to us the message of that reconciliation. But we've come to think of ourselves less as perfect instruments in the divine hand acting on this world from without in order to maintain good religious and social order, and more as participants from within, as people whose engagement with others is also, and perhaps primarily, a means to our own conversion. The treasure remains, but we're also clearer that it's held in earthenware vessels. It's become clearer that the overwhelming power comes not from us, but from God. There are certainly, it seems to me, convergences between the formula and the preferences. But it seems to me the preferences are informed by a different understanding about how God is at work in the world and about how we can be servants of Christ's mission. And in that sense, it seems to me that these preferences are inviting us to take one step further along a path of reimagining ourselves that has in fact been, this process has certainly been going on for the last century. So much for what I have to say about these preferences, what they are, how they came about, what we're meant to do about them, the kind of faith and hope they presuppose, and the way in which they might change us. Thank you very much indeed for listening.